So, I mean, the trio, usually two of us take like background parts and then he'll do the bass line most of the time. And then he says our beatboxer.
They lit up stages with harmonies that gave us chills, their voices blending in perfect unity. But behind the viral hits and Grammy wins, the members of Pentatonix carried silent battles, ones the world rarely saw. Fame came fast, but so did the pressure, the pain, and the quiet unraveling behind their perfectly polished image. This is the untold tragedy behind the Pentatonix we thought we knew. They seemed unstoppable, 5 voices, no instruments, just pure talent that redefined acapella. From winning NBC's The Sing-Off to selling out world tours and collecting Grammys, Pentatonix looked like the dream group, a tight-knit musical family riding the wave of viral fame. Their chemistry on stage felt electric, their smiles infectious. But like so many stories in the entertainment world, what the cameras captured was only half the truth. Behind the harmonies were wounds, silent tensions, private battles that clashed with public perfection. Members wrestled with personal identity, pressure from fans, mental health struggles, and the weight of always needing to be on. When founding member Avi Kaplan made his heartbreaking exit in 2017, it was clear something deeper was going on, something unspoken. For many fans, his departure felt like a tear in the fabric of the group. But what led him to walk away from something so successful? Why did such a close team suddenly seem distant? Then came the subtle shifts, new members, shifting dynamics, whispered rumors. While the group continued to produce music and sell out shows, loyal fans noticed a change. The spark dimmed just a little. The cracks were showing, if only you looked closely enough. But the real tragedy wasn't just about one person leaving. It was about how each member, in their own way, was carrying invisible weight, the kind of pressure that comes when your passion becomes your paycheck, when your creativity is expected on demand, when your personal battles have no place in the spotlight but rage silently behind the curtain. And as we peel back the layers of their journey, the pain, the sacrifices, and the decisions made behind closed doors, one truth emerges: the cost of harmony isn't always heard in the music. So what really happened to Pentatonix behind the scenes? Why did Avi walk away? How did fame test their friendships? And which moments nearly broke the group completely? Stick around, because the story is far from over, and the truth is much sadder than the songs they sing. In a small Texas town, 3 high school friends had no idea they were planting the seeds of a musical phenomenon that would one day change the face of acapella. Scott Hoying, Kirsten Maldonado, and Mitch Grassi weren't just classmates at Martin High School in Arlington, they were kindred spirits who found solace and expression in the magic of music. Scott, charismatic and creative, was the glue. Kirsten, the only girl in the trio, carried a voice that shimmered with clarity and strength. Mitch, fiercely individual and wildly talented, brought a flair for the theatrical and the unique. The 3 would often sing together in school hallways, classrooms, or any place that could carry an echo. Their bond was instant, and it ran deeper than music. They were outsiders in many ways, and the world didn't always understand them, but when they sang, the world listened. Their first taste of attention came when they submitted a cover of Lady Gaga's Telephone for a local radio competition. The prize was a chance to meet the cast of Glee. They didn't win, but the performance sparked something. They had chemistry. They had drive. And even then, they had that unmistakable Pentatonix spark. Years later, Scott went off to study music at the University of Southern California, where he joined the prestigious SoCal Vocals a cappella group. That's when he heard about the Sing-Off, NBC's televised competition for a cappella groups. Something inside him said, this is it. But he couldn't do it alone. He called up Mitch and Kirsten and convinced them to audition with him. But the show had rules. It required a group of 5. They needed a bass and a beatboxer. That's when fate began pulling the strings. Then entered Avi Kaplan, a classically trained vocal bass with a deep, resonant tone that could shake the floor. He was already known in the a cappella circuit and brought gravity to the group. And then came a wild card, Kevin Alusala, a Yale graduate who had gone viral on YouTube for cello boxing, simultaneously playing the cello and beatboxing. His style was unheard of, literally. Together, the 5 met the day before their audition for the Sing-Off. One day, that's all it took. The moment they walked on stage, the energy was palpable. Their arrangements were tight. Their sound was innovative. Their harmonies weren't just beautiful, they were dangerous. They didn't just sing the music, they reimagined it. They took risks, and the world noticed. They didn't just compete on the sing-off, they dominated. Song after song, they reinvented hits with precision, soul, and artistry. They weren't just performing, they were transforming. When they won Season 3 in 2011, it felt like a victory not just for them but for every dreamer who ever felt like their voice didn't belong. But after the lights faded and the confetti settled, the real struggle began. Fresh off their win, the group signed with Epic Records, expecting to ride the momentum into stardom. But the label didn't know what to do with an a cappella group, no instruments, no radio hits. They were seen as too niche, too risky. Within months, Pentatonix was dropped. For many groups, that would have been the end, but not this one. Instead, they turned to YouTube. They started posting covers from their apartment, arranging pop hits with their signature PTX twist. The videos were raw, creative, and stunning. And the internet responded. Their channel exploded, quickly gaining millions of views and followers. Their fan base, lovingly called Pentaholics, grew fiercely loyal. The group released PTX Volume 1 in 2012, followed by PT Christmas in Volume 2, steadily building a new empire without a traditional label. But while the music soared, the pressure simmered behind the scenes. Success comes at a cost. They say fame isn't easy, it's even harder when your brand is built on perfection. Every note had to be flawless. Every arrangement had to push boundaries. Every fan expected magic. Avi Kaplan, the grounding base of the group, started to feel the toll. A quiet soul, Avi was deeply connected to nature, solitude, and spiritual peace. The demands of constant touring, social appearances, and the spotlight clashed with who he was at his core. He loved the music, but the lifestyle was breaking him. Then, in 2017, Avi made the painful decision to leave Pentatonix. His announcement came via a tear-filled video that sent shockwaves through the fanbase. In it, he spoke not of drama, but of exhaustion. It's just been hard for me to not be able to see my family, to not be able to make music that I feel connected to do all of the things that made me fall in love with music in the first place. When Avi Kaplan walked away from Pentatonix, it wasn't just a lineup change, it was a turning point for the group and their millions of fans. It felt like the end of an era. Avi wasn't just a voice, he was a presence, a steady anchor who gave their sound its warmth and weight. His decision to leave was respectful, heartfelt, and honest, but it hurt. He had explained it simply, the fast-paced touring life wasn't sustainable for his soul. He missed the mountains. He missed stillness. And more than anything, he missed home. Meanwhile, back in the heart of Pentatonix, the remaining four had a choice to make, dissolve or evolve. They chose the latter. Then came Matt Salih, a newcomer to the scene. Matt was everything the group needed on paper, powerful bass range, stage presence, and a kind spirit. But filling Avi's shoes was no small task. For many fans, Avi's departure wasn't just sad, it was symbolic. It was the first visible crack in what seemed like an unbreakable wall of harmony. Being replaced by Matt Salih, a gifted baritone who brought new energy to the group, felt like Avi's absence wouldn't be felt for much longer. But the transition wasn't easy. Fans were divided. The sound changed. The feeling shifted. The loss lingered. Even as the group continued to release successful albums, tour globally, and rake in awards including 3 Grammy wins, there was a subtle sadness beneath the success, the kind of grief that comes not from failure but from change. Fans were skeptical, comparisons were inevitable, and internally, the group had to learn how to breathe as a new organism. What had once been instinctive and organic now required recalibration. Still, the group pushed forward. They released PTX Presence, Top Pop, Volume 1, a bold album that reimagined chart-topping hits like Attention and Havana. The harmonies were crisp, the arrangements daring, but behind the polish there were growing pains. learning to blend with a new member in a genre where each voice is exposed is a delicate process. Beyond the music, they were healing from the emotional absence of a friend. Avi had been part of the original five. His laughter, his depth, his emotional intuition, those things don't get replaced. And fans felt it too. While Matt brought fresh energy, some longtime listeners mourned what felt like the loss of a family member. The comment sections of videos were flooded with love for both Avi and Matt, but it was clear something had changed forever. What makes Pentatonix remarkable, however, is not just their talent, it's their resilience. In the public eye, Pentatonix was thriving, sold-out world tours, millions of YouTube views, new Christmas albums topping charts. But behind the flawless performances, the members were under enormous pressure. Scott Hoying, the ever-smiling frontman, had long been the emotional leader of the group, but carrying that weight was exhausting. As the group grew, so did the expectations: more content, tighter schedules, fewer breaks. While they loved their fans, the constant hustle began to chip away at their creative spirits. Mitch Grassi, known for his ethereal vocals and edgy style, also began exploring his identity outside of PTX. Together with Scott, he formed a side project, Superfruit, a musical duo that allowed them to express their more experimental, pop-driven selves. It wasn't a rejection of Pentatonix, but a necessary outlet, a space to breathe. Kirsten Maldonado, the only woman in the group, also started to branch out. She released solo music and experimented with a different sound, one more aligned with mainstream pop and R&B. For Kirsten, this was an act of reclaiming her own voice. Being part of an ensemble for so long meant sometimes quieting parts of yourself to serve the harmony. Now, she wanted to see what happened when she let her full self sing. Kevin Alusala, the cello-playing beatboxer, remained the group's steady pulse, faithful, joyful, and deeply grounded. Kevin was often the spiritual core of the group, but even he wasn't immune to the fatigue. Touring, recording, managing expectations, it all added up. Each member began asking the same silent question: who am I outside of Pentatonix? As the pandemic lockdown stretched on and the spotlight dimmed, the once constant rhythm of Pentatonix's high-speed life was abruptly replaced with stillness. For a group used to the roar of stadiums and the buzz of rehearsals, this silence was unsettling. But it was also revealing. Each member found themselves at a crossroads, faced with unspoken struggles that had been hidden beneath years of production schedules and public appearances. Scott, charismatic and driven, had always seemed unshakable. But during the quiet of 2020, he began confronting parts of himself that success had distracted him from: identity, mental health, and the fear of being forgotten. He opened up more, vulnerable on social media about anxiety and perfectionism. In 2023, Scott married his longtime partner, Mark Manio. The wedding, elegant and intimate, marked a major milestone, not just in his personal life but as a symbol of love and visibility. Yet even in love, Scott admitted in interviews that the pressure of leading Pentatonix, the expectations of always delivering, often left him drained. His smile remained, but it masked an emotional weight that took years to name. Mitch, always bold and enigmatic, used the downtime to evolve. He launched a solo project under the name Mesa during the COVID-19 pandemic, diving into a darker, more electronic sound and releasing an EP titled Roses in August 2021. It was edgy, unapologetic, and deeply introspective. The project allowed Grassi to delve into themes of identity and personal expression beyond the scope of Pentatonix. Through his music and fashion, Mitch explored freedom, creative, emotional, but freedom came with loneliness. In interviews, he hinted at the struggles of vulnerability, the difficulty of always being on in an industry that thrives on polish. For fans who had followed him since his teenage years, this transformation was powerful. Mitch wasn't just singing, he was breaking free. And in doing so, he offered others permission to do the same. Kirsten Maldonado had long lived under the dual pressure of being both the only woman and often the emotional glue of the group. As she grew into her 30s, she embraced a quieter power, one rooted not in volume but in authenticity. She revisited her solo music with more clarity, speaking openly about heartbreak, anxiety, and self-worth. She released her debut solo EP Love, exploring artistic aspects of herself that she felt had been neglected since Pentatonix's rise to fame. She expressed excitement about the opportunity to pursue individual projects and the chance to explore different facets of her artistry. Her confidence was hard-won. Her voice, once blended in 5-part harmony, now sang clearly of a woman who had come through fire. She also became more vocal about the realities of being a woman in a male-dominated industry, how she had to fight harder to be heard, seen, and respected. Kevin Olusala leaned heavily into his faith and family during the pandemic. He became a father, a life-altering shift that recentered his priorities. His focus moved toward balance, spiritual wellness, fatherhood, and maintaining his role in Pentatonix without losing his sense of self. He released his debut solo album Dawn of a Misfit on May 9, 2025. In interviews, he discussed the inspiration behind the album, notably a lyric from Jay-Z's 2009 track On to the Next One, which encouraged him to embrace personal evolution and authenticity. The album features a diverse array of music, including instrumental covers, pop hits, and classical samples, showcasing his signature cello and beatboxing style. Olusala also dedicated a heartfelt song to his daughter Ka, reflecting on his experiences as a father. Always the quiet warrior, Kevin continued to be the steady pulse of the group both musically and emotionally. But now he was more than a beatboxer, he was a man grounded in purpose. Matt Saleh had faced enormous pressure when he first joined the group. The shadow of Avi lingered. But over the years, Matt grew from the new guy into a full member of the family. His journey was perhaps the most externally unassuming but internally profound. He built his own fan base, earned the group's respect, and slowly became part of Pentatonix's identity. Still, Matt battled imposter syndrome. In interviews, he's acknowledged the emotional journey of proving himself, not just to fans, but to himself. He married Sarah Bishop on January 2, 2022, and they have a daughter together. Saleh has become an integral part of Pentatonix, contributing to the group's evolution and maintaining close relationships with fellow members. 12 years after their sing-off debut, Pentatonix stands not just as a Grammy-winning group but as a cultural landmark. They made acapella cool, mainstream, viral. They carved space in an industry that said vocal-only music wasn't viable and proved it wrong. But their legacy is more than musical. Pentatonix didn't just survive member changes, burnout, and industry shifts. They evolved. Their story is one of transformation, how 5 people learned to be honest, to grieve, to grow, and still sing through it all. They taught the world that harmony isn't just a musical term, it's a way of being. That real harmony takes work. It means making space for each voice, holding tension without breaking, listening deeply, not just to sound but to each other. As of 2024, Pentatonix continues to tour internationally. Their holiday specials remain a staple of the season. New original songs, once rare, have become more common, offering glimpses into the group's emotional depth and creative ambition beyond covers. They've hinted at more solo projects, more collaborations, possibly fewer albums, but more intentional music, quality over quantity. They also seem more grounded, less interested in chasing algorithms, and more focused on what matters: connection, truth, and artistic integrity. But what lies ahead for Pentatonix? Maybe another Grammy. Maybe another reinvention. Or maybe, eventually, a graceful goodbye. But for now, Pentatonix remains a living, breathing example of what it means to stay in harmony, through heartbreak, healing, and everything in between.